Hey, future leaders of the nation, welcome back to excellent classes where even civics feels like Netflix. Okay, maybe not that exciting, but close enough, right? So today we are jumping into civics chapter 1 of class ninth, which is what is democracy? And if you think this is just about big words and boring definitions, stick around. I'll show you how democracy connects to you. Yes, even when your Wi Fi is slow and your parents won't give you extra phone time. So let's dive into it. Alright, quick question. Who makes the rules in your house? Is it you? Nope. Your mom? Definitely. Your dad? Maybe. So, what is democracy? It's a system where the rulers are elected by the people. Simple thing. If you choose the rulers, you give them power, and if they mess up, you throw them out next day. Okay. Not about phone features, features of democracy, right? So the first feature is major decisions are taken by elected leaders itself. No secret rule books. If you are in power, you must be chosen, not self-declared king of the sofa, right? Feature 2, free and fair elections should be conducted. Elections without cheating, pressure or threats. Sorry, you can't promise free tiffin boxes to get votes. Feature 3, one person, one vote, and one value. That means even Ambani and your building's watchman have equal votes. No premium package for rich voters. Feature 4, rule of law. Even the prime minister has to follow the law, just like you has to follow exam rules, right? No copying. Feature 5, rights and freedoms for all. Speak, protest, write, dance, as long as you don't block the traffic. ठीक है? And democracy. What makes it better than monarchy or dictatorship? Imagine a classroom where your teacher chooses the monitor chooses who gets homework, right? And you can't utter a single word. Scary, right? That's dictatorship. Difference between dictatorship and democracy. So, dictatorship is a system where all the power is. Let's study about the political situations of Pakistan, right? In 1999, the Pakistan Army General Pervez Musharraf led his military troop and kicked out that the prime minister of that time, who was Nawaz Sharif, and made himself the chief executive of the country. Then he didn't like the name of that post. Then he promoted himself to the post of the president. So now let me tell you his story. Okay, on October 12th of 1999, General Pervez Musharraf, that time of the chief of the army staff, seized power from the democratically elected government of Prime Minister Mr. Nawaz Sharif. Even Nawaz Sharif was also thinking, the person under me kicked me out of the office, right? And one thing, let me tell you before telling you the story. These things which I am telling you is not, it will be not be present at your NCRT textbooks. These are just extra information, and you can use it for your extra knowledge, right? So the coup was the coup has a tense relationship between the two leaders, which had deteriorated significantly after the Kargil war with India earlier that year, right? So while Sharif attempted to dismiss Musharraf, the military leadership sided with their chief, leading to the overthrow of civilian government, which means that the military coup has kicked off Nawaz Sharif, and Nawaz Sharif couldn't do anything, right? So initially, General Musharraf declared a state of emergency, which suspended the constitution, and then assumed the title of chief executive, which I told you earlier in short. To June 2001, he appointed himself as the president of Pakistan, and then he would later hold a controversial referendum in 2002 to save his presidency, right? So the reports say that that referendum was was performed by illegal works, illegal things, right? People were forced and all that time of situations. Okay, so Musharraf's domestic agenda was centered around the concept of enlightened moderation. He aimed to project a modern and progressive image of Pakistan, countering the rise of religious extremism. Right. This included promoting cultural activities, which even happens today in Pakistan. Right. Which liberalizes the media. If we are talking right now about media, I'll tell you something more in the other case studies. Right. This included promoting cultural activities, which liberalizes the media and championing women's rights through legislative measures. So, if we talk about economically, his government, with the help of technocrats like Shaukat Aziz, who later became the prime minister of the country, embarked on a program of liberalization, privatization, and deregulation. Right, key state-owned enterprises in sectors of telecommunication, banking, and energy were privatized. Right. Now, in September 11th of 2001, attacks in the United States, to be a defining moment for Musharraf's rule, made a pivotal decision to align Pakistan with the US in the war of terror, right? Which abandoned the country's long-standing support for the Taliban regime in Afghanistan, and this alliance brought a substantial military and economic assistance to Pakistan, but also embroiled the country in a protracted and a bloody conflict with extremist groups within its own borders. So it means that the conflict was occurred under his borders itself, right? So Musharraf's relationship with India was also very complex, and it is right now also. So, despite being the architect of the Kargil conflict, he initiated a peace process with the Indian Prime Minister, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji. This led to a ceasefire along the LOC in Kashmir in 2003, and a series of confidence building measures were started. The two leaders came close to a framework for resolving the Kashmir dispute, but a final agreement remained elusive. Even this time, Kashmir conflicts happened, like which happened like recently in Pahalgam. These things which I am telling are not present in your NCRT textbooks. These are some kind of extra information which I am giving. So you can use this content as your extra knowledge, right? Now let's talk about some controversies and challenges. Musharraf's rule was plagued by controversies that eroded his authority. In March 2007, suspension of the judiciary happened. Musharraf's attempt to dismiss the Chief Justice Iftikhar Muhammad Chaudhary sparked a nationwide protest movement led by lawyers and political parties. The lawyers' movement became a focal point of this opposition to his rule, championing the cause of an independent judiciary. Now let's talk about the Lal Masjid siege. In July 2007, a military operation was launched against the radical Lal Masjid in Islamabad, which was occupied by armed militants, and the siege resulted in significant casualties and further fueled anti-government sentiment among the religious conservatives. So, in November 2007, General Musharraf declared a state of emergency and suspended the constitution for the second time. So, in 2008, of the general elections held in the charged atmosphere following the assassination of former Prime Minister Mr. Benazir Bhutto in December 2007, and then led to the decisive victory for the opposition parties, the PPP, the Pakistan People's Party, and the PMLN, which is Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz. Right. Okay. So this was the whole story of under the rule which happened under the rule of General Musharraf. So this was the whole story. Now what was happened mainly in Pakistan, right? So mainly the referendum was presented by General Musharraf to extend his timeline, right? And then he announced a legal framework order in which he can dismiss the national and provincial assemblies anytime, and the civilian cabinet will be supervised by the National Security Council, which was dominated by the military officers itself. So he controlled everything which was under him. Right. So now, right. So now, let's talk about the case study of Zimbabwe. Right. So let's take a trip to Zimbabwe. Once upon a time, they had a leader named Robert Mugabe. Who was the leader? Robert Mugabe. He won election again and again and again until people forgot anyone else ever ran. Right. It was like watching a show with only one actor. No plot twist, just Mugabe winning, 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 winning every time. Right. But do you think that those elections were fair? Not exactly, right? People were scared to vote. The media was not free, opponents disappeared. That's not democracy, that's democracy's evil twin, which is fakocracy. Right. So, which is what is the lesson? Having elections is not enough. They must be free and fair and fearless. Right? So, what was the political situation of Zimbabwe? First, let us talk about what is Zimbabwe. Okay, like Zimbabwe was is a country in southern Africa which became independent from the British rule in 1980. Right. Then at that time it was there's a party named ZANU PF, Zimbabwe African National Patriotic Front. So the Robert Mugabe became the prime minister and the later first prime minister and the later president of Zimbabwe. He remained in power for 37 years. I said, nah, Robert Mugabe is winning, 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 winning. Yes. And that was not democracy, it's fakocracy, right? So, though he was elected, over his time his rule became undemocratic and authoritarian. Elections were often unfair and with reports of violence, threats, cheating. Opposition leaders were harassed, the press was controlled. Mugabe's policies like seizing land from white farmers led to economic collapse. Over. Zimbabwe faced hyperinflation due to this, meaning prices rose extremely fast, 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 fast like Usain Bolt, and people became very poor, right? And unemployment and poverty increased very sharply. In 2007, the army took control and forced Mugabe to resign. A former ally of Mugabe, Emerson Mnangagwa, became the new president. I'm sorry if I pronounced the wrong name, right? So, though elections were held, many people believe they are still not completely free and fair. And it's if you talk about Zimbabwe's current situation, it is still struggling with corruption, poor economy, and lack of true democracy. And like even this time, there is a lack of democracy and fakocracies still running on, right? So now let's talk about the political situation of Mexico. The political Let's talk about the political situation of Mexico. The political situation of Mexico, right? So Mexico is a country in North America which became independent from the Spanish rule in 1821. But its journey towards democracy has been long and complex. Even the Mexico has the same situation like Zimbabwe, right? One party rule has been done by from 71 years. Are you getting my point? From 1929 to 2000, the Mexico was ruled by a single political party named PRI, Institutional Revolutionary Party. Hey, let's do a fun thing. PRI, and its name, the full name is Institutional Revolutionary Party. Why it is not given the right name, right short form? Like, see, if we say IRP, not they think that you it's not like good. If they would give RIP, it will be rest in peace. And now they gave PRI, so this was just a fun thing. Don't write this in exams. So all the elections were held. They were not truly democratic. They were phacocratic, right? So the same party always won, using unfair methods like cheating elections, pressurizing voters, and controlling the media. Even sometimes they changed the polling booth also, right? Lack of real opposition was also done. Opposition party existed but had a very little chance to win. There were reports of election fraud, violence, and unfair practices. The president had a lot of power and there were no checks and balances in a healthy democracy. After 2000, finally, for the first time, PRI lost the presidential election, and this was a major step towards true democracy in Mexico. Elections become fair and different parties got a chance to rule. So, present day, Mexico is now a multi-party democracy. However, it still faces some kinds of corruption, drug cartel violence, and weak law enforcement. So, the government is working to improve its justice system and fight crime. So, the conclusion is Mexico's history don't shows that holding elections alone does not make a country democratic, right? True democracy needs free and fair elections, right, and strong citizen participation. Do you know that in Mexico the government officers, government teachers have to go in the PRI's party meeting, right? And teacher called the parents asked, our child is doing good or not. The teacher said, leave this, vote for PRI, right? So these things were happened in Mexico, but right now the government has been improved, right? So now let's come to China, right? Ein Ching Chong, right? So now let's come to China, right? Ein Ching Chong. So China is also facing same issue, right? It is one, but wait, it is one of the largest and most powerful countries in the world. It is ruled by a single political party, and its political system is very different from a democracy. When US says Russia is interfering in our elections, Russia says US is interfering in our elections, whereas China says, wait, you guys are having elections. What? They were like, huh? What? So China is ruled by the Communist Party of China, CPC, right? And it has been in power since 1949, since the when the People's Republic of China was formed. There are no regular free and fair elections, right? And only the members of the Communist Party can hold up to top government positions, right? And there are no opposition parties, just 8 parties under China. There's 8 parties under China. They also have to take the permission of the CPC to participate in the election, right? So who is the current president of China? Yes, Xi Jinping, right? So this was a situation of China, and the name of their parliament was what is the name of the parliament? National People's Congress, right? So what is its Chinese name? National People's Congress also has a Chinese name, right? So the Chinese name is like quite comedy, and I think I can't produce it like quite well, right? Its name is Kwangwo Renmin Daibiao Dahui, right? It's the highest legislative body in China, right? But it mainly approved decisions made by the Communist Party of China. Are you getting it? The parliament has to approve decisions made by CPC, yeah, which means that CPC controls the whole country, whole government, right? So see, democracy is like a tree. right? Democracy is like a tree. So now what does it mean? That the roots are freedom, justice and equality, the trunk is elections and law, and the fruits are rights, development and peace. So if you ignore the roots, the tree dies. So let's conclude it that government government is just like a teamwork. It is for the people and with the people and by the people, a real but with political limits, right? So this was about the whole chapter, right? So all right champs, we have covered what democracy is, why it's important and how it works. So the question of the day is, why do you think that democracy is better than dictatorship? So tell me in the comments. I'll pin the best answers. And if you learned today, you drop a like, share, and share this with your gang. And subscribe to Excellent Classes, your shortcut to smart learning. So the Excellent Classes application has also been launched, and its description will be present in the its link will be present in the description itself. So stay calm, stay cool, keep learning, and keep questioning. And yes, stay democratic.